Good evening, everybody. Lovely to be back with you. I hope you had a wonderful day of integration, continuing to allow the energies of the retreat to work upon you. Yeah. Okay. So, again, why don't we shut down our eyes and we'll open our hearts, just settling into the body and acknowledging what's here. Your nature is good, is true, is beautiful. Your nature is radiant, radiant, radiant. Yeah. And so we're breathing in and breathing out, connecting to the quiet immensity of our being. And because this retreat was quite intense, like most retreats, I'm going to invite us just to soften more fully, have a relaxed mindset, a relaxed attitude, making sure we're not being overly spiritually serious. And so breathing, feeling, smiling, opening. With each and every breath, letting go, softening with each and every breath. Connecting to that which is good and true and beautiful. In the here and now. So inviting your consciousness to expand. The space of the mind is expanding. The throat chakra opening more fully. The heart relaxing and softening. With every breath. We are trusting. The fullness of this moment. And again, as we're kind of winding down from retreat, a lot of us have like a real sense of power, pressure still right through the central channel. Again, I'm just going to invite you to allow your consciousness to expand, to spread out, so that power, that pressure has somewhere to flow. Somewhere to flow. Or just imagining all the chakra centers just expanding on the horizontal plane, creating an inner sense of relief, expansiveness. And as you expand, you're acknowledging that there is room here for everything. Room for your human self, your psychological self. There's room for pain and tension to unravel, to release. And of course, there's room for the recognition that what you are fundamentally, essentially, is good, is true, it's beautiful, beautiful. And so we're expanding in the space of the mind, the heart, solar plexus, the hara. I invite you all to join me right now, this moment, in the space of the heart, deep in the center of the heart. So right in the center of the heart, sometimes there's almost like a soft spot there, a point of great tenderness. I'm going to invite you just to imagine that point, that spot of tenderness, right in the center of the heart, is a doorway. So together, we'll walk through that doorway, entering the inner cave of the heart. As we begin to journey inward, you may notice like a supreme tenderness, a vulnerability, an absolute purity and innocence. the recognition that what you are so utterly precious, so pure, so divine, so holy. If you're sensitive, you may must feel as if it brings like tears to your eyes. Just how pure. This presence, this essence is that you are. So we're continuing to let go into this space, deepening, surrendering. And you may notice that there may be some egoic guardedness, but that's not really necessary right now. But it will require a certain level of courage to truly open, to truly let go into this space. So we're journeying inward, almost like we're walking into a deep cave that you can't really tell how far it goes. Just continuing to walk into the deepness, the depth of the cave. And this purity, this innocence that you are, you'll notice it's like it has a weight to it, a density, a thickness, a substance. Again, it's so utterly pure, so tender, so innocent. So I will ask you, do you trust? You can open to this space, embody this space without any guards up, without any walls, without any buffering, any defending. Can you trust this purity? It does not need to be defended. Can you see, can you recognize that this purity, is timeless and eternal? It has been ever present throughout the entirety of this lifetime, multiple lifetimes. That this purity is perhaps, or therefore, actually quite strong, quite indestructible. And so again, I'm going to ask you, do you trust? Can you let go more fully? What would your life be like if you allowed this purity to lead you? What would your life be like if you allowed this purity to lead you? And can you hear the voice of this purity as it calls you deeper, deeper into the cave of the heart? As it calls you deeper and deeper into the cave of the heart. And for some of you, it can actually help if you let go a little more fully the pelvis, the lower belly. Allowing a deeper level of trust to come online. As you continue to journey inward, you may notice again deep in the center, the back of the cave. There's this radiant fire. This fire is wanting to consume all of you. So again, I will ask, do you trust? Are you willing to allow yourself to be consumed? Are you willing to allow yourself to be consumed? This absolute holy radiance that you are. That you are. And for some of you in the group, it'll be helpful to relax your throat chakra more fully. to allow this fire to expand through in and through out. Through in and through out. The immensity of your being. And so we open, eternally open. The absolute beauty and purity. The absolute truth and goodness that you are. That you are. Yes, yes. It's so beautiful what you are. So beautiful. I just, well, a little bit ago, my little girl was kind of bouncing off the walls, and my wife's kind of been watching her all weekend because I've been busy with you all. As I looked at my wife, I looked at my child. I said, "How about I take Ani to the pool?" So my wife said, "Okay, that's a great idea." Gave her a little break, and my little girl hopped in the car, and we drove off to the hot springs. And it was funny. We ran into a friend there, and it's a friend of my daughter's. It's like my daughter's classmates, like some of her friends, but her father, excuse me, or his father. If I can do this, if I can figure this out. And so, I saw this fella, and there's this real problem. Like the more your heart is open, and I saw Nadi's friend, father. I just looked at him, and I was just like, my God, like what a handsomely beautiful, radiant being. Just so beautiful, so beautiful. And then I saw another friend, and I looked at him, and I said, my God, how beautiful he is too. And then I see all these little kids throwing around, playing around, and all of a sudden these little kids, they all just started splashing me like crazy. I was like, oh my God, these little angels, like they are so beautiful. And it gets to be a real problem when your heart opens up. You just see Just such beauty, such beauty everywhere. And yet, despite that, we're also human. And a couple people emailed me after the retreat telling me, some mistakes I made. And it's like, and there's that too. It's like, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Everyone, please forgive me. I make mistakes just all the time. I get confused. And my God, I'm so dyslexic. I butcher my words. And I don't see clearly. I even just had a funny thing happen. Like this fellow who I saw at the pool, he was so beautiful, and he has this little kid who's kind of like a brainiac. Like he knows like all the facts, about history and this and that. And so they were testing me, and they said, Craig, what's like the biggest city in North America, that has the most people in it? And I thought right away, okay, well, it's got to be New York. There's got to be LA, like one of those two for sure. And he said, no, like, Craig, it's Mexico City. And I said, that's right. Of course it's Mexico City. Of course it's Mexico City. But just me being me and who I am, like we have these cultural biases. It's like sometimes when you're quote unquote an American, you think that it's like it's the only country in the world, and America is all North America. The United States is all of North America. And it's just time and time again, life will point out the places where we need to grow, where we can continue to evolve. And one of the things my teacher used to remind me of was that the awakened one is very flexible. Like that being is always willing to grow, to learn, to evolve, is always willing to apologize. And it's just a good reminder sometimes that we live this great paradox where our nature is so good, is so pure, is so utterly divine. And then we have this human self, and me, for example, I walk around often, I see my wife or my kid or, one of you is telling me, Craig, you put your foot in your mouth. It's like, oh, I feel like Homer Simpson sometimes, like, oh, I did it again. And so truly, I forgot to say this on the retreat, like, forgive me if I said things that were confusing, that were wrong or upside down and backwards or culturally biased or incorrect, or if I just didn't see you clearly. If I didn't see you, if I didn't meet you clearly, I certainly try. But this is part of being human. Being human is confusing. Confusing when we have so much divinity and such a big veil, such a big veil over our eyes, such a big veil. And so the most populous city in North America is Mexico City. Mexico City. And in fact, I can even say I knew that because I watched this amazing documentary on Mexico City and how huge that city is. It's massive. It's like Mumbai in India. It's just so utterly huge. But it's okay. Like, it's okay. We're all growing. We're all works in progress. But truly, I do ask for forgiveness and, for dropping the ball. One of the most beautiful things I heard one of my teachers say is, and I can't even get this right, but he said something like it was the great Adyashanti, and he said, like, about his job of being a spiritual teacher. It's like you can never quite convey the truth in words. Like you just can't. And it's like the best you can do is do a pretty good job of failing. Like a pretty good job of failing. And so that's part of the job. That's part of the job. especially when we're speaking about these deep inner spiritual realms. Is can we fail well? Can we fail well? And so, anyways, I'm curious. Look at this. Don's correcting me. Don says Craig Sri Aurobindo went to Cambridge, not Oxford. Man, I swore it was Oxford where he went, but Cambridge. Thank you. Those two schools. I get those two schools mixed up. In fact, I probably didn't even know there was a difference at one point in time. So, anyways, if anyone has a question or anything they want to share from their retreat or from the retreat or their experience, you can bring it forward. Yeah, let's hear from, it says Jan. Hello?
Yeah, hi. You're stuck with me this time, not Jan.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Don.
Hi. So, Jan and I went to Pisgah National Forest, about an hour from here. It was storming and thundering, and then it's just as we got there, kind of cleared up. It was really beautiful. And we're walking through the forest, and there's just this, it was like this angel realm. It was so beautiful. Those raindrops coming down gently. There's this, spacious silence and just joy permeating everywhere.
Yeah.
And beauty, and it was so wonderful. I was feeling back to the retreat, and you were inviting us, to really be open to what is resisting, what is the fear that we're, still holding on to. And so I was feeling, it started as a small fear, kind of in the solar plexus more than the hara, and it grew more and more. And you asked us at the start of the retreat, what are we afraid of bringing forth? And I had said the music and videos, but actually, when I went into it, it was like, we're about to embark on this intense marketing, like putting ourselves out there for people to pay for us. And it's a lot of analysis and calculation, and I hate this kind of stuff. And what's interesting is I stayed with it, and it got more and more intense and really felt horrible. And it was really like almost hurting in my solar plexus. And I could feel this really interesting, like right on the razor's edge, when I felt small, and like, I've got to do this, it felt more and more hellish.
Yeah.
And as I opened to the beauty and the spaciousness and the limitlessness of the space, it felt like there's this incredible power that if I just let go and trust,
Yeah.
do it. And I could feel tonight as you were leading us, really, trust that power. And I could feel like it's just this knife edge, like shrink in, it feels like hell.
Yeah.
Expand, there's nothing for me to do.
Yeah.
So I'm starting tomorrow morning. I'm going to spend the whole day developing this little commercial platform we're doing. And normally I start grinding my teeth and, tensing up. So it's a real invitation from the retreat, trust. And to be honest, like, recognize the fear, not hide from it, which I can do very well. But I really appreciate I wanted to say also, great thanks to you, everyone here from the retreat, everyone who hasn't been at the retreat. A special welcome to Eileen, who just showed up tonight. And just a great thank you. Thank you so much. It's a real challenge to.
Well, Don, of course, but let me ask you, like, is your website, is it live?
It's not the website's live. It's a new community. It's called Mighty Networks. It's a new community that we're building up. We're actually we're moving everything of the course to this one, and it's going to take another few weeks to set it all up. So it's an enormous amount of work.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm inviting, because basically it's a platform to share the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, right?
Yes, in disguise, without talking about them yet.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't you, like, when it is live, or if it's available to look at, why don't you send it to me? Why don't you put it on the Facebook page?
Okay.
And what I'm going to invite for like this idea around marketing, because marketing can feel
Okay.
like really disgusting, and it can
Right.
feel like we're a used car salesman and we're trying to sell something, or it
Right.
can feel like that. Or like if you have something that's absolutely divine, and we're basically sharing some wonderful teachings from some great saints, I want us to imagine that any marketing that you do around it is you basically helping people to find these teachings. So you helping people who could benefit from this to find these teachings, to come into contact with these teachings. And in a sense, like this is a form, I've said this a couple times, like true marketing, because almost like a form of bhakti yoga,
Mm.
because you're worshiping God.
I love that.
You're worshiping God, like you're sharing God's, like if we're good Christians, like it's what we're sharing the good news. We're sharing the good news, but we're wanting to connect it to people who are interested in it, who are
Let,
interested in these teachings. And this is another way that we worship God, through believing in her, through believing in her truth, because her truth is going to be on your platform. And we're sharing that truth. We're honoring that truth.
let me say one more thing about it.
Yeah.
This may relate to other people's reservation with this. So this particular one, we're doing courses on effortless sleep, effortless mindfulness, and we're presenting it. It's all inspired by the mother in particular, but we're presenting it as it's for ordinary healing. We're presenting it in a
Yeah.
very yeah. So we feel like we're really trying to bring the mother's inspiration, but it's going to appear outwardly like a commercial thing. So part of the conflict is like, should we do this at all? Should it be commercial? I love your frame of like
Yeah.
it
But
feels
I mean, let's just think of it in the most basic sense. Will these teachings help alleviate suffering in anyone?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
question.
No question. And so that's what we're supporting.
Yeah, okay,
That's what we're supporting. Like, are you looking to make $1 million?
no,
No, like that's not what we're doing here. Like we're not, sleazy used car salesman. Like what we're doing here is we're sharing the good news. We're trying to alleviate suffering. We're trying to connect people, make spiritual teachings accessible
yeah,
to the
right,
general public. I mean, that's a great thing.
yeah,
That's a great thing. That's one of the things that like a long time ago, I was speaking with, one of your old friends, Locke Kelly,
right,
and he said like that's what he did with his teaching. He basically he was taking, like some form of Tibetan Buddhism, and he was trying to make it accessible to, just like the general public in New York City, and of course beyond that, worldwide now. But he wanted to make the teachings less, esoteric and like these secret teachings, and with the funny language, and just make it available to the public. And he's been pretty successful with that. Like
It's
it's
funny
been
you
great
mentioned
work.
Locke. You've mentioned Locke. I've told you before that Locke and I used to talk about these things years ago. That up until 2016, we were teaching mindfulness in the brain, and it all felt very superficial. And when Locke's book came out about effortless mindfulness, I said, Jen, we can teach that.
Yeah,
Everyone, every person I've talked to, kids, I've talked to illiterate people, and I say,
yeah,
do you know what it's like? You go to nature and things just, everyone
yeah,
knows this,
yeah,
but this is what we can teach.
yeah,
And so,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And it's innate, and I get this feedback all the time from people that they don't like when I use the word God. They don't like when I
right,
say holy. Some people don't like Buddha. Some people don't like the Indian saints and sages, that the ascended masters that come floating down from above. They say, what is all this strange, bizarre stuff? But just for me,
it's you.
these are just all a part of my life. And for me, I can't deny it. Like I can't deny it.
Right.
I have to honor. In fact, like they scream at me, to honor it. And so I have to. But from one perspective, it can be very confusing, and sometimes like for some Buddhists, I'm too yogic. For some yogis, I'm too Buddhist. For some people, I'm not, Aurobindo enough. And it's just like, everyone's going to have an opinion. But if you keep it really simple,
Yeah.
it's hard to, it's hard to complain about it. But again, like I fully support you.
Yeah. We're going to be the safe version of Craig Holiday.
Yeah. The safe version, the non-cult version, the
Right,
non-cult
right.
version. There you go. There you go. So anyways, yes. So the thing too with marketing, like it's funny because I had all the same thoughts about like marketing my work, and I actually had to do like a lot of therapy around marketing, around being seen, around being heard.
Right,
And it was it was funny because I had to work with all these parts of myself that were scared and were resisting. And
right,
what was happening is actually my ego was doing a lot of sabotaging
right.
of this light that I am,
Yes.
this light that's here. Like my ego was literally sabotaging the light. And then I saw, oh, this is like the opposite of worshiping God.
Right.
Like this is like shooting God in the foot, or shooting the light in the foot in a sense, because I didn't believe in
Yes.
myself. And so I could not be a fit conduit. And I can even say, like, still to this day, I still trip over marketing. It's always like the last thing
Right.
I think of and the last thing I do. And I just like, it's like I don't want to ever make an ad
Yeah.
for anything. And so I've kind of just gotten in this groove of just seeing YouTube as I just keep putting things out there. And I say, God, okay, you connect, these teachings, which are actually your teachings, God, you connect these teachings with the right people, and
Well, to
here we
put you on
are.
the spot, I keep sending my Amazon review of your book, which is a glowing review. And anyone here who hasn't read it, read Yoga of Liberation. I
Yeah.
send it to everybody.
Yeah.
So watch out.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I
You may
appreciate
get
it.
$1 million soon. Then you'll be in
Yeah,
trouble.
$1 million. So, anyways, well, good to have you, Don, and so
Thank
much
you.
love to you both.
Thank you.
I fully support your work. Yeah,
Thank
yeah, beautiful. And I want everyone in the group to hear this, because so many of you are light workers in one form or another. In one form or another, it's come up a number of times throughout the retreat, is that there's people who are wanting to step forward. And I'm going to maybe even push a little bit and say, I don't want to hear anymore about you wanting to step forward. I want to see it. Like I want to see all of us go out into the world and share the good news. And by that, again, I don't mean we need to be out proselytizing. We share our heart, we share our love, we share our divinity, we share our gifts, we speak our truth. So however it manifests for you, like please bring it forward. And again, it doesn't have to be some holy healing activity. Sometimes it could be, like, for example, on the poker table. Like there's one individual who is a master poker player in the song. I'm not going to say his name. But so that, like, even to show up with that gift, like that gift of really knowing like how to play cards. Like me, I don't know how to play cards. I don't have that gift. I don't have the gift with games. I don't have, like my wife is an incredible athlete. And like when I see her play, it's like the divine in action, the divine in action. And so whatever it is that we are, can we be it to the fullest? Can we be it to the fullest? Or can we share our light in the world and not hold back? Not hold back. So anyways, okay. Let's see. So someone else has a question. I'll invite that, and I'll just kind of look here in the comments here. Terry writes, people can get so attached to words and cultural history. It can be hard to nudge people out of those self-imposed definitions, like God in the throne, like God in a throne in the sky, etc. Yeah, and I've offended so many people just with the word God. And to me, God is just the vast mystery and intelligence and the beauty of the universe. It is not a white man in the sky that has a beard. That's not how I see God. That's not how I experience God. And that would be really shocking if that's what the case was. Really divisive. So Eileen writes, I just tiptoed out and timidly started a little YouTube channel about wellness, spirituality, and culture. Yeah. Eileen, please share more. Share more and feel free, like I have like the Kundalini page is a great place to post some of your work and to share the work that you're doing. Like it's a wonderful place. Like I want us to share our light in the world. I want us to share our light. Like we could all be sharing whatever our divisive not spirituality, our divisive political orientation is in this moment, but you're wanting to share your channel about wellness and spirituality and culture. Like, what a gift. What a gift for our world. What a gift. Yeah. Okay. And let's hear from, gosh, I feel like there was someone here I wanted to speak with. Let me see, I'm drawing a blank in this moment. And so again, I'll ask anyone have a question and I'll see if there's anything that pops up that I forgot to bring forward on the retreat. Oh yeah, here comes Anne. Let's hear from Anne.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, good to see you.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful retreat. I just have a question. Maybe it's kind of a Kundalini question, but in that last meditation where we were meditating I was meditating on the root chakra and going, opening to the earth. Yeah. And you called it the ground of being and the power of creation. Is that the same as the Kundalini energy that's in the root chakra that's rising through the spine? Are we opening to the same force?
Yes, that's an interesting question. So the ground of being, more traditionally, is going to be like this huge expansiveness. And that's more like what the Buddha would speak about. Like one of the ways he described it was the great Prajnaparamita. And so that's this land of like infinite potential and potentiality. It's this space that is pregnant with all phenomena. And so a different way of saying it, it's almost like the beginning of time, like before anything was manifest. And then Kundalini is that which becomes manifest, and that kind of comes up out of the earth. And in that sense, I was speaking a little bit about like that redwood tree and being a redwood tree that's growing up out of the ground. Now, of course, in an ultimate sense, like everything is made of the ground of being. And so, of course, everything is one with that. Absolutely. But there is a distinction, like if we're going to, really get specific about our experience, when we open into the ground of being, there is great freedom. And it's almost like a timeless freedom. It's like a freedom like before we were born type of freedom. And what's beautiful about it is like the big teaching of the Buddha was almost like going back to the source. And as human beings, like being human is messy, being human is exhausting, being human is overwhelming, being human is stressful, And when we reconnect to the source, it is such an utter relief. Like when we go back into the earth and we don't have to be anyone, in a sense, like that old non-dual teaching, if we can, be nobody and, be, like do nothing and just be this infinite presence before creation came online. There's this deep, nourishing relief. And my God, especially if folks have had trauma, if we've been beat up by life, when we return to the ground of being, it's like, oh my God, like I can finally just rest and I don't have to guard and I don't have to defend. Because from an absolute perspective, when we step into the ground of being, we become, in a sense, everything that is. And even pre everything that is. And so it's ridiculously nourishing. And for some of us, like if we've had real messy lives or traumatic lives, or we've caused lots of drama and we've struggled with addiction or confusion, or just, like, let's just say we've gotten a lot of trouble in our life. When we return to the ground of being, it's almost like hitting the reset button. And it's like, oh, yes, what's here is innately good, innately perfect, innately true, innately free. Free. And so this is, again, one of those paradoxes of spiritual experience. But the more we plug into the ground of being, of course, we become that ground. And then that ground will eventually live through you in your actual manifest life. And so let's say, like, we're connected to the ground of being, and then we go out into the world and we make a big fat mistake, and we have a little bit of a train wreck of a day or whatever it is. When you're deeply connected to the ground, it's almost like there's this immediate sense of, like, oh yeah, like that was foolish, but it's okay. It's okay. Like, it's okay to be human. It's okay to grow. It's okay to make mistakes. Like, it's okay. And I'm not saying in a way where we let ourselves off the hook, but there's just almost like this automatic forgiveness for life, for yourself, for others around you, for the causes and conditions of life. And it creates this great sense of, well, I'll just use this word. It creates a great sense of okayness in life, a great sense of okayness. And it really softens any resistance to life or to resistance to being human. Now, of course, like the ground of being is very similar to the way the yogis describe, like, Shiva consciousness. Basically, it's like the unmanifest world, or the Buddha used a different world. He used a different word, excuse me. Like his word was more nirvana. It's just like pre anything, before anything, returning to the source. Now, the beautiful paradox about being human is it's so supportive, so nourishing to realize, like, this great absolute presence that we are. But then simultaneously, God says, well, that's not enough. I want you to be the absolute, and I want you to be the relative. And in a sense, kundalini is kind of sort of like the relative divine coming forward through your body, through your chakra centers. It's working in a very unique way. It has a unique expression in you, through you, as you. And when these two realms, combine, it makes this wonderful spirituality. that is both absolute and it's relative. And most teachers, like in most traditions, like they normally teach one or the other. Like a lot of the non-dual teachers just teach about the absolute and just going back to the absolute. A lot of Buddhists, it's just about going back to the absolute. And just in the way that I teach, just because like I have a family, I have a life, we have this community. I want to make sure that the teaching, meets all levels of being human. And that's why, like one of the things I call my teaching is fully human and fully divine. Fully human and fully divine. And we're not separating those two. Not separating them. When we separate those two, we tend to get in trouble. We tend to get in trouble. If we just too much in the absolute, well, we're not honoring our family, we're not honoring our trauma, we're not really growing in this world. We're not facing our life. And if we are only in the relative, well, we miss this immensity which is here, this vast immensity. And so the invitation with this teaching is to do both. To do both. And it takes courage to do both. It's very easy to hang out, to hide in transcendent realms, or vice versa. It's very easy just to get lost in the relative realms. And in this teaching, in this path, we're not getting lost in either. We honor both. We honor both. So yeah, beautiful question, Anne. Was that helpful?
Yeah. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, of course. Good to be with you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then Lucas came forward. Lucas is sharing his music here. There's a link in the chat if you want to check out Lucas's music. And Lucas, please feel free to put it on the Kundalini page too, so it's in a more permanent place. Okay. Yeah, and I feel like let me just look, because there was one more thing I wanted to share. One of the things that I wanted to speak about during the retreat was that the courage it takes to be deeply honest about oneself and about our path, to be deeply honest about, our shadow, but also deeply honest about our divinity. And this is kind of relates to what I was speaking about with Anne. It's very easy just in a world of spirituality just to focus on, say, someone's teaching or some dharma, or we're studying the dharma, we're studying the meditation practice and trying to get it right. But the invitation here in this moment, this retreat has been on strength, and it takes this humble strength to really look deeply at our life and to see, where is it that we traditionally or habitually get confused? Where is it that we habitually blame or judge or attack? Where is it that we are habitually righteous or overly confident, about ourselves or our abilities or our I really wish our world was not so divisively political, because it's just so in our face in so many ways. And like we all think we know. I even had this little thing happen with Terry at the beginning of the Ukrainian war with between the Ukrainians and the Russians, and of course the United States, like we are so involved. It's like ridiculous. But when it first happened, like I was shocked, and I was like, really thought like, yeah, we need to support the Ukrainians, and like this is crazy. And Terry kind of came on, and she said her viewpoint, and I listened to her talk a little bit, and I was like, God, like this is really crazy what she's telling me. And then, with a little bit of time, I was like, I began to realize more and more I was wrong. Like I was wrong. And it's so hard. Like war is such a messy topic. It's such a brutal topic. It's such a brutal thing that even exists in our society. And I want to be clear. One, I don't know the answer. And two, I'm not in support of war, but also I don't, of course, I don't like seeing what has happened to the country of Ukraine. But the Russians have a part. But of course, like our government, the United States government, my government, has a huge part in that mess. And sometimes we just think we know something. Sometimes we look at a situation, we get emotional and say, oh, we should, fight, and we should defend, and we should support. And sometimes like it just takes a lot of strength to really step back from our opinion and to really look at it and say like, oh, maybe some of my opinion is coming from an emotional place, an uninformed place. Maybe I don't actually know the full picture. Maybe I don't actually know the full picture. And this is just becoming more and more clear in our world. We have so much information, and yet we also have so much biased information that is constantly fed in our minds, through the media. And there's been so many stories that have come out about COVID, the origins of COVID, the vaccine, all that craziness. There's so many stories, like we go into our politics about Trump, about Kennedy, about Biden, Hunter Biden. It's just like all this stuff. There's just so much craziness. So much craziness. Like the new fun one I love is like UFOs. It's like, what's real? What's imagined? What do we know? And it's just like, there's so much craziness. And part of being human, and the Buddha spoke about this, part of being human is all human beings have this. It's like a pride mixed with attachment to what we think we know. And we just assume it's right. It's right. And every day, I just come to more and more realizations like, oh, I was wrong. Like I was wrong about this, like all these outer things. In the inner realms, I feel just a deep sense of truth and clarity, and things in the inner world seem fairly easy to me. But in the outer world, like the outer world of knowing, of like egoic knowing, it's like, my God, there is so much confusion. There is so much spin. And sometimes we are played. We are played. We are taught something through maybe 10 different media sources. This is the truth. This is the truth. This is the truth. And we come to discover, oh, that's not the truth. That's not the truth. Or, oh, I don't know what the truth is, because this reasonable person is saying this, and this other reasonable person is saying this. I'm a reasonable person and I'm thinking this, but maybe my viewpoint is conditioned and completely and utterly wrong. And it takes great strength just to step back and really look at all the things we think we know and say, huh, I don't know. I don't know. And not many humans are willing to be that humble or just that empty, to not be attached to an opinion, to not have an opinion, to not have an opinion. And like, how about that? Like, what if there was a war going on? Like, say, for example, with Ukraine, and we didn't pick a side. We did not have an opinion. If we just didn't immediately just start waving our flag and saying, this is right, this is wrong, but rather we step back, maybe just for a period of time, and said, I don't know. I need to wait and see. And there's this wonderful freedom that comes when we give ourselves permission not to have an opinion, not to know everything or act like we know everything, be so righteously, rigidly attached to some opinion, even if we think it's, oh, this is a really progressive opinion, really good opinion, very liberal, healthy, healing, wholesome opinion. And one of the things about the truth is sometimes the truth takes a little bit of time, a little bit of time to reveal itself. But it's very difficult for the truth to reveal itself to us if we are righteously attached to what we believe is the truth. And so part of being a Buddha is having a radical emptiness and openness toward life. And being, open to the possibility of first, like, well, maybe I was wrong. Like, okay, like, can I be wrong? Like, some people cannot be wrong. And I've got a couple friends. It's like, they cannot be wrong. And it's very bizarre to hang out with them because, like, after a while, it's like, geez, there's such a rigidity in the room. It's like, you don't want to hang out with someone who's just right all the time. But a great master, you'll see that their mind is quite comfortable being empty and not knowing. Not knowing. Not knowing. There's many times my wife comes to me and says, you did this thing. And I've said, yes, I did do that thing, but that's not wrong. Like, I did it the right way. You did it the wrong way. But very quickly, I realized that's not going to get me anywhere. And so sometimes she'll come to me and she said, you did this wrong. I'd be like, oh, I did do that wrong. I did do that wrong. Your way. If I give you the chance to explain it to me, I see is much better. Much better than this way, which I thought was right. And so it takes courage to be open. One of the greatest flaws we have as humans is we have this arrogant pride in our own thinking, immediately thinking and assuming that we are correct and that we know the way. And it takes almost like a quiet type of strength to sit back and to not know. To not know. It takes a strength to sit back and just to silently listen for the truth to present itself. And that's the beautiful thing about the truth. If you give it time, everything will be revealed. If we don't give it any time, if we already know everything, it's very hard for something greater to wake up in us. It's very hard for a new truth to come online. It's very hard actually for our heart to open. To open if we already know everything. And so anyways, is this Jan raising your hand now? Or is that from before?
Okay. I've never raised my hand twice in a satsang, and I've been afraid for about 9 months to challenge you on this. And David just wrote something. So is there time? I don't know. I'll say something quickly.
Yeah. Don, I was surprised. Like, I don't think I heard from you during the retreat because normally you're a big talker. So I was like, in fact, let me just say one thing about the retreat. It's hard because there's so many people and there was so much that was wanting to come through, and I felt like I didn't get to meet with enough of you, and so I felt bad after the retreat, like, geez, there wasn't enough sharing time. And at Kripalu there was so much sharing time. It was wonderful. So anyways, what's coming forward, Don?
Okay, so I want to start by comparing you favorably with Aurobindo. Okay. And I've been feeling for 8 months, I absolutely love when you talk about world events, that you so beautifully invite us not to take sides, see all as divine. And Krishna did the same thing with Arjuna, like, see the Pandavas, the good guys and the bad guys, it's all the divine. Okay. So Arjuna was great with that. And then he said, you have to kill the Kauravas, kill the bad guys. Okay. So
because that was your dharma. That's because that's your dharma. Yeah.
Well, let me bring up one more closer to our time. So in the early 1940s, when World War II started, most of the Indian disciples at Sri Aurobindo's ashram hated the British because they were the bad guys, the overlords. They rooted for Hitler to kill the British.
Oh my Lord, I didn't know that part.
Oh yeah, they were like,
I didn't know
British
that part.
bad guys. We want Hitler to win, right?
Yeah.
And here's what Sri Aurobindo said: yes, there's no good guys and bad guys. It's all the divine. He also said, here's what he said. He said, if Hitler and the Japanese and Italians win, the evolution will be set back for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And Winston Churchill was a racist, sexist, priggish, whatever, but he was being handled by that. Okay, I'm not going to discuss any current people.
Yeah.
But I think David had a point that of course it's all the divine. We can't hate Biden or Trump. We can't hate Putin or Zelensky.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear you. I love the way you emphasize non-hate, non-taking sides, not knowing. I love that, and I love the challenge. I would love, without even naming people, just remind us when we step back into that place of not knowing, at some point we wait long enough, we may have, our true heart may give us a direction, not towards hate or sides, but towards, I need to speak up or say this.
Oh, 100%. And that's, in a sense, like that was what I was saying about when we sit back, we let go, and the truth will reveal itself. The truth will reveal itself. Yeah. And by all means, like, please vote, please vote, please show up. Please do what you think is right. Absolutely. Please speak our truth. And we must be engaged. Like, we must be engaged in this world. Like, we must be. But sometimes we get carried away, especially in this day and age, with righteousness, and we're busy, telling everyone this is misinformation, and now the new word is this is malinformation. And like I've done this, in the last, say, 6 years, thought, my God, like all of this that's coming out is misinformation. And then with given a little bit of time, I realized, oh no, that thing that I was once saying was misinformation was actually the truth. It's like, this world is so crazy, and there's so much lying right now. There's so much bias. There's so much confusion. It's messy. It's so messy. It's so messy. And it's very easy for us to think that we are on the right side of history. And I think it's important for us just to, for everyone to step back and really say, what is the actual truth here? Like, what is the actual truth? Like, and to really use a deep level of discernment. And then from that place, please act. Like, please act. And that was like the big thing. that Aurobindo taught. It's like, this world will not change unless spiritual people act. Unless spiritual people act in alignment with the truth. With the truth. With the truth. And, you know, spiritual people, just as non-spiritual people, are just as easy to get lost in emotion, to get lost in confusion, to get lost in righteousness. You know, I like when I was young, like righteousness used to be one of my big shadows. And I would go out and do the protest and this and that. And at some point I realized, oh, I'm inciting violence. Like I can remember I was at a riot once in Chicago. All the riot police came out. And there was rage, there was fury, there was violence in me, and there was violence in the, you know, the fellas holding the billy clubs. And I realized, oh, like I've become one of them. I've become one of them. And both of us thought we were trying to create a more peaceful world. You know, the riot police and Craig, you know, thought we were both trying to create a more peaceful world, and we are both doing the wrong thing. We are both doing the wrong thing. And so, anyways, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, please do a deep dive and be willing. You know, like the other thing too is just like this whole political thing with sides, like the whole idea of sides. Like that, that is samsara 101. That, you know, that's being on the wheel of samsara right there.
Yeah,
it's
beautiful.
a side, my side against your side. And at some point we need to step back and say, no, we need to get rid of sides. We need to be done with sides. This whole good versus evil and this and that, and Republicans versus Democrats or liberals versus whatever. And it's like, my God, the verses, that thing needs to be erased. What we need to do is learn how to figure out how to listen, to communicate, to hear each other, and to meet in some way where it's like, hey, there's a world here, and this world needs good, healthy governments, good, healthy people. And, you know, it's hard to get those people together. It's hard to get them in office if it's just, I'm right, you're wrong, us against you. This grand illusion, this grand, I guess just one massive delusion that somehow we've all agreed to, that it's us versus them. And that way will just lead to more pain, more suffering, more division. And sometimes I hear people and they like say the word civil war, and I'm like, my God, how horrific. And, you know, like me just being born in Kentucky, I can remember when I was young, like my father was a war buff, but when I was young, we would tour the battlefield sites, and we'd see like you'd go into the museum and you'd see the saw that they'd use to cut off someone's leg. And it was like, oh my God, just the pain of that, the horror of that. It was like brother fighting brother, cousin fighting cousin, and it was like family fighting family. It's like, what kind of hell and insanity is that? What kind of hell and insanity is that? And, you know, my upbringing was quite bizarre because, you know, I've also stood, you know, in the trenches in Europe, you know, like the Battle of the Somme, and just the fields where just the French and the British and the Germans just butchered each other. And it's like, my God, I've stood on those mass graves, whereas here is buried, you know, 20,000 young boys. It's just like the craziness of division. Like the disease is division. And another shocking one is I was in Central America, and I don't know how I've had been to so many of these sites, but in Central America, the same thing. I'd be, go to sites where there were just mass graves of Guatemalan villagers or Nicaraguans or Hondurans. And there's 800 people buried right here because coffee farmers wanted to make $1.50 a day, and the coffee company just wanted to pay them $1 a day. It's like, how horrific it is what we do to each other. And the invitation, one of the reasons I like to talk about both sides, and I'm trying to soften those lines, to really soften those lines, say, hey, it's not us versus them. It's we and we, it's I and I. It's us and us. We've got to find a way to get along with each other. And there will be plenty of practice for all of us to listen to each other. Because I think, is it next year? I mean, pretty soon, it's an election year. And things are probably going to get nasty again real quick. And so, together as a Sangha, like this will be one of our spiritual practices that I'll invite, is can we start just with listening? Just with listening. Not with trying to shove my truth down your throat, but maybe can we start just by listening? Just by listening. And seeing what is the truth, and how do we come to the truth together? Now, before I end tonight, I want to share something that I heard, which I saw, which was so utterly beautiful and almost hilarious. I thought it was actually kind of hilarious. There was this fella who came out. He has the #1 song right now. Someone could help me. I might know his name. Maybe his name's Oliver Stacks or something like that. And he has this song. It's something like Richmond, north of Richmond. And it's this song, and he's just singing his heart out. And I saw it pop up my YouTube feed, and I clicked on it, and I listened to it, and I can say I found it quite moving, and I'm sure for some people it's controversial. But then later I saw these 3 brothers. It's like 4 or 5 guys. So these African American fellas, and they wrote, they did their reaction to the song. And here they were kind of like, hip hop kind of guys. And, but they were just talking about the song. And this guy was like as white and as Southern as anybody could be, the fella singing the song. And then these guys were giving their reaction, and they were just talking about how much they loved his song, how beautiful it was, the way he was singing, how they felt the depth and the presence of him. And then they started talking about Toby Keith and all these other country Western singers. And to me, it was just so touching when people are willing to step out of their box and to really listen and to share and to like and to enjoy. And it's not like, I'm from the city, so I can only listen to hip hop. I can also listen to country Western music. I can go across, my party line, and, I can be open and hear, quote unquote, the other side. And what these fellas did, and it was so beautiful, is they found a great sense of unity with someone whose life was so utterly different than their own. So utterly different. And it's like, that's what the world needs more of, is people who are willing to find unity and not just absolutely pick on everyone and call it divisive or racist or wrong or bad or this or that, or you offended me. But to say, okay, I understand. For a city boy, which a bunch of city guys, to understand a song that was basically a song about, sounded like singing about coal miners. And it's like 2 really different worlds. And this willingness to listen, to share, to connect, to unify is what our world is needing. And so anyways, So much love to all of you. And let's all together, just work with this willingness to come together instead of getting so attached to a sense of division and I'm right and you're wrong. And that's not politically correct. And this is this and this is that. Can we stand in a place of love together? And so, good night, everyone. So good to be with you. And a deep bow of respect to all of you who came forward on the retreat. Yes. See y'all next time. Bye.
Okay.